it's really hard when you're really competent and well loved by your clients and by loads of metrics, you're doing really well. It's hard to unlearn some of that stuff, isn't it? I remember you mentioning that actually when I came and did your day course. I think you spoke quite a bit about unlearning.
I think I use the word counterintuitive quite a lot. I think a lot of the work that I do is counterintuitive, and you know, the fact that very often by not saying anything, by letting somebody think for longer, actually we get further than we do when we and yet we sort of think that we need to move things on. So yeah, I probably use the word counterintuitive quite a lot. Cool. And I suppose kind of connected, that the work that we both do is very human, and often, I don't know, you may not agree with this in the way that you do, but I think for me anyway, it's on that kind of simple but not easy end of the spectrum. Like I say, often is a bit counterintuitive. What possibilities do you think open up by making some seemingly simple changes that might take a while to embed and, you know, need practice and all the rest of it? What sorts of possibilities do you see opening up for planners that get good at this stuff?
Well, the biggest thing for me, and I guess the way that I work, which I'm interested to hear how that lands with you, because you may or may not feel it resonates with your work, or you might be, the similarities, the differences might speak louder than the similarities, I don't know, is that I'm offering a structured way to move from being well-intentioned about relationships, because everybody's well-intentioned, and I see advisors and planners work really hard to build better, stronger, more resilient relationships in really powerful ways, but that doesn't have any kind of rigor to it. So it relies on each individual advisor or planner's instincts or inclinations. So I guess I'm trying to offer a structure to move from an approach to relationships that's informal, instinctive, and kind of invisible and implicit. We're very good at talking about our technical outputs. We're less good at actually being explicit about the value of the relationship that we offer. So moving from, as I say, informal, instinctive, implicit, which is kind of well-intentioned, to well-executed. And of course, that's where I bring in my psychotherapy. It's like a playbook. Psychotherapy is a discipline or a field that is devoted to building well-executed client relationships. Because in psychotherapy, you can't guarantee outcomes. You can only commit to the relationship. So it's like a structure to move from an informal approach to a rigorous approach. I use the methodology that you would use as a psychotherapist. Obviously, I am not for 1 second saying that financial planners need to become psychotherapists. Absolutely not. That we need to avoid role creep and kind of moving into areas that we're not trained for. But we need to get more rigorous about what an ideal client relationship looks like. What are the what's good practice, what's poor practice? What should be involved, what should be left outside that boundary. And then moving from being instinctive to cultivating those skills and practices. And that's where I feel like there's a lot of resonance in our work. You know, I know that you do a brilliant job in cultivating the capacity to listen, the capacity to be curious, all those sorts of really important skills that are about dialogue and connection. And then I also bring in the kind of methodology and insight from psychotherapy about how to be more explicit about it, how to stop that relationship not actually being named and discussed and kind of co-created, but to actually talk about it. And that's counterintuitive at first. And that's kind of often a bit scary for advisors and planners who haven't had those explicit conversations before. So again, you know, your sort of program where you can try stuff out, where the stakes are low, where you can be clumsy, where you can get it wrong, where you can feed back to someone and say that didn't quite land for me, or that felt a bit, I don't know, whatever it feels like. Those sorts of spaces. I'm not sure if I've answered your question. I kind of went off on one.
No, it's all good stuff, Emma. So what, well, the question, and I will ask it again, actually, because I think it's still really relevant. What possibilities do you think open up for people when they get good at that stuff?
Yes, exactly. So the reason why I talked about the structure is that then there's less guesswork. You know what you're aiming for. You know how to measure, both for yourself in a reflective practice, but also outside, with your other colleagues and peers, what you're aiming for. And that just makes it so much easier and steady and less kind of less hard work, lighter, freeing, and impactful. There's a blueprint. And I think that for me, and for a lot of the people I work with, it's orientating. And I think it's really helpful to be orientated. Does that answer it better?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's really interesting. Kind of, maybe we'll go on to this in a minute. But I remember you sitting at the, perhaps it was just around the end of the morning of our day together, and saying, it sort of feels like I'm sitting in a pair of new jeans. I'm not quite sure if they're going to be comfy or they're going to fit yet. So I'll ask you a bit more about that in a little while. But I think I sort of feel the same. There's a lot of resonance between what we do, and we come at it from different angles. It feels very complementary, actually. 100%. Which is good news for both of us, really.
I think we're kind of in the same sphere. I think you lean in one direction, which I think is a really important direction, which is to, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm making assumptions, but I love how, for me, it feels like you lean into a spaciousness and a permission and both introspection for the advisor and the client, but also a reflective space where it's kind of self-awareness beds in, and you can really feel into the relationship and the work that you're doing. And that's so important that you can lean that way. And then I think that where I lean, and I just want to be clear that I think we both lean in both directions, but I think this is where I would tend to lean more, holding those ideas as well, is I think that I lean into being a bit more active. So as a psychotherapist, and I never know how to say this there's just no way to say it without sounding wanky, but as a psychotherapist, we're taught and we learn and we practice how to use ourselves as an instrument. See, it just sounds wanky. But what it means is that we're really attuned, and we use that instinct that we've attuned and built to feed back and be explicit and to talk about it. So I remember when I was on your one-day course, that there was this thing that you were talking about. I think it might have been when I was talking about putting on the new jeans, that in some ways kind of didn't fit for me, which was that you said something about promising not to interrupt. And on one hand, I love that. And on the other, I'm like, oh, no, I can't promise that. It's like, I want to sometimes interrupt judiciously. I won't interrupt without awareness or without thinking about it, but sometimes I will interrupt in the service of you. And I think that sort of maybe exemplifies the difference between us. Maybe I'm wrong, because both are really important. How does that land for you?
Yeah, no, I totally get where you're coming from. The thinking environment is central. That promise of no interruption is really central. And I guess, when research would suggest that our experience in the world is that we're interrupted like within 11 seconds of starting to talk most of the time, I'm going to stand by that, because I think like any movement towards not interrupting is hugely important. And I suppose that awareness is I think that's a really hard thing to build. And like what is genuinely in service of you. You've got to know yourself so well. We talk about the kind of being aware of your response stream. What is it as you're listening to somebody else? What is it that's going through your head? Is it analysis? Is it, a connection? Is it your confirmation bias? All of these different things that are going through our heads, our kind of desire to fix or please, or, all of those things. And most of the time it's that causes us to interrupt.